is a writing assessment?
The most important characteristic of a writing assessment is that in this form of assessment, the test taker actually writes, as opposed to completing multiple choice items or some other non-productive form. In a writing assessment, we also expect to have a focused topic. We would expect a specification of audience and some specification of purpose for writing. We would also expect to have clearly laid out the method by which this writing is going to be judged, either as a whole or by reference to some criteria. We'd expect to have people who've been trained to make these judgments, or, and increasingly these days, a computerized system which essentially replicates what the human judges do. We expect to have a scale or some other system for reporting the performance of the writers for the consumption of the people who need these scores. And we'd expect to have a means of validating this assessment instrument.
How reliable are writing tests?
Writing tests can be really quite reliable, but they can also be very unreliable, and obviously this depends on how carefully one works on ensuring reliability. We can do this in several ways, or a combination of all of these ways. We can have more than one item, which with a writing assessment means more than one task. Of course, it's difficult to have very many tasks because it takes so long to produce a text. We can also do it by having more than one judge, so that we could have, typically we have two people who read and score the writing, often with a third when there's disagreement between the two. If you have more than that, you will get higher reliability. You can increase the reliability by scoring different dimensions of the text. So you might give a judgment of the grammar, a judgment of the organization, a judgment of the content, and so on, which in a way treats one text as a number of different items. You can also do this by having more than one writing occasion, but that doesn't happen very often, again I suppose because it is really quite time consuming to do this sort of thing. But when you add all of those together, then you can get quite high reliabilities, and there are testing systems that get around 0.9 reliability. You're likelier to get something in the low 0.8s.
What do we have to remember in order to end up with a writing test that is as reliable as it can be and still keep the validity that this kind of assessment has?
Well, we have to, I think, keep the validity as the foremost point to remember, so that particularly when we think about this in classroom assessment, which is where most writing assessment actually takes place, then we need teachers to be thinking about what it is they've been teaching and how the assessment is relating to that teaching. So we need people thinking about educational goals, curriculum and syllabus. In terms of reliability, again, the classroom teacher has the opportunity to have more than one item because they see their students over a long period of time, and if they do this consistently, then they can create reliability by collecting the writing and judging it in careful ways at a number of different occasions during a semester or during a school year. Another important form of reliability that teachers can use is to work with other teachers in their department or within their school building to exchange pieces of writing, to discuss those writings, to cross-score them, even informally, to give themselves this better understanding of what is likely to happen, so that they can begin to predict the pattern they should see in their students' work and recognise when things are going awry. So with teachers in classrooms, I would say think about the skills that the teacher has through instruction and use that as a judgment as to whether something is working well.
If I'm looking at a writing test from the point of view of a teacher or a future test taker, what should I look for about the test? What information should be provided to me?
From the teacher's point of view, the more information that is provided, the better. So one simple thing is to look for how much information you get out of the test. Is it just a number, a score that doesn't have any explanation? Is it a number which is fully described through a scale? Is it perhaps a set of numbers, each of which corresponds to a description of a particular facet of writing? So the more information is the better if you're choosing between different writing assessments. Also, from the teacher's point of view, I think that the more positive the assessment is, the better in terms of its educational influence. When we look at descriptions of performance of writing, we see some of them focus on what students can't do. You know, the grammar is not good, the content is inadequate, this kind of description. Teachers really need to be looking for assessments which pick out what the students can do, even when that is quite limited, so that what they then report, particularly to the learners and to the parents, is in some way encouraging and educationally developmental. So this kind of specificity and positiveness would be, to me, the most important criteria for teachers to choose between writing assessments. When they go beyond that, then they need to be looking to see what reports are available about these particular assessments, find out who has worked on this, what they can tell you about how they've done it, and so on. So the more information available, even if some of it might be a bit too technical for the teacher to understand, the fact that all this studying of the test exists is a positive sign that it's been developed carefully.